Row 3, and row 4, Watson in the Marlborough, Pironi in the Ferrari. And away they go now on the warm-up lap, and here's James Thompson to tell us about it.
Yes, well, off they go. The Monza traffic sport over the years changed quite considerably in that they had to put chicanes in to slow the cars down. Now they're running up what used to be a very fast straight, but there's a chicane just in front. There's the first chicane. It's usually quite exciting after the start here, with the whole grid funneling down into that narrow bit. They've come out of that left-right, left chicane. That's the curve of Grande, famous corner, of course, in the modern cars with all that grip. The corner's completely flat out. It's not really a corner for them at all. Remember, of course, they're not racing at the moment. There's Reutemann just heading the field down there. They're coming down to yet another chicane, which again was put in to slow the cars down to make the circuit that much more safe, because it was really too fast and not necessary to be that fast, not a test of skill when there are no corners. Just a little left-right chicane, quite slow. Second gear they take that in, and then they go up into the two Lesmo corners, which are very difficult corners. In fact, unfortunately we missed those with the camera. That's the second one. It's the first one you see them coming out of, disappearing into the second one. Two very fastish right-handers, very difficult. You get a lot of shadow there. When it's sunny, the trees cast shadows, which make the light conditions very difficult. Now they're coming up to the final artificial chicane, which was put in, as I said before, to take the pace off the circuit and give them something to do instead of just sitting there getting bored down long straight. This one's a little bit faster. This chicane is taken in third gear, and it's quite bumpy around there. The cars bounce about quite a bit, especially in this day and age. They've come right down the other straight now. In this day and age, when they have practically no suspension, in order to keep so they no longer have sliding skirts, in order to keep the chassis close to the ground at a constant level to get the downforce that they want. So they're running into the corner onto the straight again. That's about third or fourth gear, quite a fast one, opens out nice and wide. Very important corner to get in absolutely right. Once you've got in it right, it's quite an easy corner. And now there's pole man Arnoux just coming slowly down. Let the back markers catch up so they don't have to sit for too long on the grid with engines potentially boiling. Of course, racing cars have no fan for the radiator. They depend on moving. And he wants the whole field to be up there. And of course, he doesn't want to sit there with his clutch slipping all the time. It's getting hotter as well.
The weather is dry, but we have feared rain earlier on, and the start, as I say, is going to be very critical. The turbocharged Renault might well be a bit slow off the line, and if Carlos Reutemann on the left of your picture, but above Arnoux, can get away quickly and beat Prost and Arnoux into the first chicane, that is to say, he could put himself in a good position. There's going to be a tremendous blast of noise when those lights go from red to green. Now about less than 7 seconds. Prost and Arnoux into the chicane, and it's Arnoux taking the lead from... and Reutemann in third position. In fourth place. There is Bruno Giacomelli. The two Renaults are now spreading out across the circuit, and Reutemann is trying to drive, and he is indeed succeeding at driving round the outside of the Renault and up into second place. Terrific performance. Pironi is in fourth place. Lafitte jockeying for position. And as they come down to the second chicane, it's Reutemann in second place, it's Pironi in the Ferrari in third place, and challenging for second, Lafitte weaving, and away goes the Renault, round the first of the Lesmo bend, round the second Lesmo bend, and now down to the Vialoni, the left-hander, and then to Ascari, which is on his way to now, and Jacques Lafitte is really moving that Talbot around, and Pironi challenging for second place, going to try and take, and he's done it. Pironi up into second place, ahead of Carlos Reutemann, down into third position. Then the Renault, Alan Jones is in fourth place, Jacques Lafitte is in fifth place, and there's a roar of excitement and approval from the as they hear that Pironi has moved up into second place, and is he going to be able to challenge the Renault as he comes out of the Parabolica at the end of lap 1 with 52 laps to go. Car number 28, Pironi, in second position. And flashing down the straight now, the Renault pulling away, and still Reutemann. No.
Fantastic first lap by Didier Pironi. He used the power of the Ferrari to perfect advantage there. What happens on the first lap is that the lead drivers tend to take it a little bit steadily around the corners so they got their tires warmed up and things, and the Ferrari doesn't handle so well, but Pironi was able to keep up with them around the corners and then blast past them on the straight, and he's come right up from his grid position into second place, and he's now going to be a very difficult man to pass as usual because of the power of the Ferrari. I don't think he's going to be a threat to the Renault, who's building a little lead in front of him, because quite frankly the chassis, as the others settle down, I think Pironi is going to struggle to keep his place, but the others are going to have the usual terrible fight to try and get past him because of that power advantage that he enjoys. But he's going very well at the moment.
So, Alain Prost leading, and incidentally we just have to stop talking as the cars pass this grandstand position because the noise bounces back off the roof. But Pironi in a stirring second place behind Alain Prost. Carlos Reutemann is still in third place, and there is Alan Jones on the right of your picture in, sixth position. Prost goes through, Pironi second, Reutemann third, Arnoux fourth, Jacques Lafitte fifth, Alan Jones sixth, and Gilles Villeneuve in seventh position. This is the end of lap 2. The man who is leading at the end of lap 2 is Alain Prost, who won in Holland and who won in France. He goes across the line. There is Pironi. Behind Pironi, still Reutemann. Prost is starting to then Jacques Lafitte. And the two Lotuses are halfway down the field as the tail enders blast through. And last at the present moment is Mark Sura, who seems to be Eddie Cheever. Mark Sura non-started, incidentally, just failed to qualify. And now, look how Carlos Reutemann is closing up on Pironi and trying to take second place. And all the time, Alain Prost is easing away from the battle behind the Ferrari, because, as James said, Pironi is in effect, as he has been before, a mobile chicane. This is what happened in the Spanish Grand Prix when Gilles Villeneuve and also in Monaco, because nobody could get past the Ferrari, tremendously fast on the straight. Arnoux is still in fourth position. Reutemann is still third. Lafitte is still fifth. Villeneuve is up into sixth position ahead of Alan Jones seventh. And Giacomelli eighth, and Nelson Piquet is in ninth position. Now, coming out of the Ascari bend, down the long run to the Parabolica, this is 160 miles an hour, down to the third gear, right-hander, the Parabolica. There's Villeneuve through, and Jones, and Giacomelli, and Piquet, and John Watson, and De Angelis, and Nigel Mansell, and Daly. And Giacomelli, there is Patrese. Jerrier goes through, 3 laps completed. Prost leads, and Arnoux is challenging for third position. Arnoux through ahead of Carlos Reutemann in third place. Italian Grand Prix of 1981 here at Monza, leading the 2 Renaults, which is something that we're getting quite used to these days. And in third position, Didier Pironi.
I think Lafitte's got a particularly big problem now. He's going very well indeed, but when he passed Reutemann, he became out of the parabolic and quicker than Reutemann, and then actually was repassed virtually by Reutemann on the straight. So I think Lafitte is not very quick in a straight line, so he's got an even bigger problem than any of the others, as he's now leading the normally aspirated race, and he's got Pironi, of course, to set about.
And Alain Prost has made the fastest lap of the day so far, 1 minute 38.9 seconds, and that is something like 3 seconds slower than the lap record as he shapes up to complete another lap. Across the line he goes, and the battle behind him rages as you look at the unique Monza scoreboard. And now Lafitte is going up to take that third position away from Pironi. The gap is 4.9 seconds between between Prost, the leader, and Arnoux in second place. And Reutemann there. Arnoux is in second position. Prost ahead of him. Lafitte ahead of Pironi.
Well, that was fantastic. Lafitte getting past Pironi. He's now going to be a very happy man to have that between him and Reutemann and the rest of the pack. Villeneuve is using his power well. He's moving slowly up. But Lafitte is really charging. We in fact have a potential joker in the pack today because the weather is looking extremely iffy. We had quite a little spot of rain about 20 minutes before the start. It tried to rain. It's close and it looks as if it could do, although the clouds seem to have lifted a bit for the moment. And of course that could throw a lot of confusion, particularly to the Williams team. Whoops, and one of the Ferraris is blown up by the look of it. That looks Villeneuve, well, that's turbocharger gone, very spectacular. These turbo cars certainly blow up nicely when they do. That was a little fire in the turbocharger, and all seems to be well. He seems to be pressing on those in a parking.
Well, Villeneuve had exactly the same thing happen to him in practice, and he just toured in to complete the lap. And I was talking to engineer Tomini, one of the Ferrari head men today, and they use an enormous number of turbochargers. Prost has gone through to complete his 6th lap, and he is now well ahead of René Arnoux in second place. Jacques Lafitte is in third. Pironi is still fourth, and Reutemann right behind him in fifth place. In sixth position now is Bruno Giacomelli, who has got ahead of Reutemann, and there goes the leader. The gap is down between Alain Prost, the leader, and René Arnoux in second place, as we see Gilles Villeneuve in the stricken Ferrari in race run, because you certainly can't change a turbo like you can change tyres and wheels. And to confirm that, Gilles Villeneuve gets out of the race, and that is on the end of his 6th lap. So one Ferrari out, and there's one still going very strongly indeed, but in 4th position now, Pironi, the Frenchman, who joined Ferrari this year. You're looking at the turbocharged section of the engine. The turbos are on top of this V6, something like 560 horsepower engine.
Yes, I imagine, Murray, that the Ferrari team will have taken a bit of a gamble and turned their turbocharger up to really risky boost levels to get more power, because quite honestly, they are the first people to be aware of the fact that their chassis isn't very good, and so they've got to do it as best they can with the engine. So I'm sure they've taken a risk, run as much power as they dared, just hope that the engine hung on. So far, they've got one wrong and one right. But there's a long way yet to go for Pironi to hang on if he's running a lot of boost pressure.
And you will have seen that Carlos Reutemann has moved up a place again, and the gap now between the leader, that is to say Alain Prost, and we are on lap 8 out of 52, and René Arnoux is the second turbocharged Renault, is still about 3.5 seconds. There is from the Grand Curve, and from the Grand Curve he goes up to the Roger, the new left-handed chicane, which was specially made to reduce the speed a bit. Out of the right-hander, up to the first right-hander at the Lesmo bends, there's 2 of them, 4th gear, and it's something like 140 miles an hour as Alain Prost, very much in the groove, in the latter end of the 1981 World Championship Series. He's in 5th place in the World Championship, is Prost, with 29 points. He comes out of the dip underneath the banked part of the Monza circuit, which isn't used anymore, down to the Vialoni, the left-hander, Ascari, the right, drag down to the Parabolica at 160 miles an hour. And as you see, Alain Prost is leading René Arnoux by just over 5 seconds. Jacques Lafitte is only 2.5 seconds behind Arnoux and gaining. Pironi is in 4th place, just a second behind Lafitte. Then Reutemann, who's moved up since that chart was done, and Giacomelli in the Alfa Romeo in 6th place. And we are on lap 8, almost at the end of it. By the way, Nigel Mansell is in 12th position and John Watson is 9th as René Arnoux goes through. Now, look back and you'll see Reutemann is ahead of Lafitte and ahead of Pironi. Reutemann in 3rd position. Lafitte is 4th. Pironi is 5th. Up to the Retificio, Carlos Reutemann 3rd. There is Alan Jones. Alan Jones moving up through the field. And if you can't hear cars as they're going past the grandstand, I do apologise. There is nothing we can do about it. Such is the noise here, we can hardly hear ourselves. But there is Reutemann 3rd. Lafitte in 4th position. Pironi in 5th place now. Alan Jones is 6th. And that looks like Nelson Piquet in the background. It is in 7th position. So things are really getting exciting as Lafitte goes through. There is Pironi dropping back and Jones is closing up on the Frenchman in the Ferrari. Look at Didier Pironi on lap 11. There is Nelson Piquet, and the order at the moment is Alain Prost is leading in the Renault from René Arnoux. In 3rd position is Carlos Reutemann with Alan Jones 4th. Nelson Piquet is in 5th position. In 6th place behind Nelson Piquet is Didier Pironi, who's dropped back from 3rd position in the Ferrari. Then behind Pironi is Bruno Giacomelli, and following Bruno Giacomelli there is John Watson. And Derek Daly is in 10th position. Down to 15th place goes Nigel Mansell. And Brian Hinton is still running. He's in 22nd position in the Tolman. As we look at Hinton crosses the line, as we look at the 2 Renaults, and René Arnoux seems visually on lap 11 to be closing up on his teammate Prost. There, in 3rd and 4th positions, Reutemann and Jones. 5th is number 5, Nelson Piquet. 6th in the Ferrari, Didier Pironi. 7th in the Alfa Romeo, Bruno Giacomelli. John Watson is 8th. Daly is 9th. Lafitte is dropping back in 10th place. Number 11, that is to say, Elio De Angelis is in 11th place. And Patrick Tambay is in 12th position. Lap 12, the 2 turbocharged Renaults of Prost in the lead and Arnoux in 2nd place are leading the 2 Saudi Leyland Williams cars, and there they are. In 3rd position, number 2, Carlos Reutemann, 4 points, and that is Slim Borgood's ATS, and it has gone off the course, and so has number 26, and that is Jacques Lafitte. Jacques Lafitte then, and that transforms the World Championship.
Look at the rear tire on Jacques Lafitte's car, and that was obviously why he slowed down. It's well, you see the blisters. What happens when the rubber is too soft is that it overheats and it actually bubbles up and blisters like that, and you get less and less grip. And I would think that that was certainly a contributory factor to Lafitte's exit from the circuit in that summary fashion. That sand stuff is absolutely marvellous. It really stops the cars very quickly indeed. And oh, it's raining. It's raining out on the back of the circuit. It's very wet indeed. So we've got rain down the far end. We're very close to the Parabolica there. It's not raining here yet, but it looks like it's really wet the circuit. Now that may well be why those cars are off. But that sand stuff that they use stops the cars extremely quickly and is marvellous. I think they really should incorporate it in as many circuits as possible because it's very effective indeed. The only trouble is it's quite difficult to get your car out of it once it's in. Alan Jones has moved up. He's past Reutemann. Jones may be in pain. he's pretty grisly when he's not in pain, and I think Jones' pain is quite a challenging thing. Anyway, he's certainly driving a very hard race, really charging now.
Well, you've heard the news. Rain on the far side of the circuit, and the far side of the circuit is only about 200 yards away from the near side of the circuit. Wet as they go through the chicane at Dialoni and Ascari, and Alan Jones up into third place ahead of Reutemann and starting a terrific charge on the two Renaults. There is Jones, the world champion, leading the 1981 World Championship leader Reutemann, and they have lapped Brian Henton. Then it's Nelson Piquet still in 5th place and Didier Pironi, and Nigel Mansell is slowing down. He's now in 16th place.
I'm looking, we're sitting opposite the start-finish line. There doesn't seem to be any activity towards stopping the race, but of course, if the track gets wet right the way round, then they will stop the race and restart it. We're going to the complicated rule system. The Tolman just went by there. There's the water coming off the Renault's tires. Tolman was pumping a few flames out of its turbocharger. Alan Jones just coming down to the wet bit of the circuit. See the water coming off the tires now. They're going to have to tiptoe through there. But as I said before, we're very close to that area, and the rain hasn't reached us here yet. So I think that might have been a freak corner of a cloud that just caught that extreme end of the circuit, because the rest of it looks bone dry. And I guess the Tolman spitting flames as usual. Still, they don't appear to be planning to stop the race at the moment.
And that was Derek Daly spinning off. Derek Daly, you can see how wet it is. And Derek Daly spun off. He's just out of camera range. Maybe they'll pick him up at another one. But this is making things extremely hazardous. The gap between the race leader, Alain Prost, and that's one of the Renaults off. I can't identify. It's Arnoux. I can tell from the dark overalls as the driver walks away that René Arnoux and the other car, I just can't identify. It looked like the Theodore, but it can't be because Mark Fura is not in the race. He failed to qualify. But I know it will almost certainly be one of the Tyrrells. But René Arnoux, and subject to positive identification, out of the race. And it's Alboretto's car. We're almost certain that it's Alboretto's car, the white one that is stationary on the circuit, with the marshals pushing it off. And now Alan Jones has got his chance. Viewers in Australia, pay attention, and off goes another one. And that was another Tyrrell. I think that was Eddie Cheever's car, and you can see how dangerous the corner is, because as they come out of the Lesmo curve, it's Prost that's off. It is Alain Prost. No, Prost has just gone past me. Apologise. It's definitely René Arnoux, and the cars as they go past, and out goes Salazar, the Chilean driver, and I suspect that the organisers will now be thinking very seriously about possibly stopping the race, because Prost out of it, Arnoux out of it, for good off, Lafitte out, Villeneuve out, and there is Brian Henton. This is the first time we have ever seen a Coleman in a Grand Prix, a Formula One Grand Prix. But Brian Henton going very slowly indeed, and as Alboretto jumps out of his car, number 3. He's been hoping, I think, that the marshals will be able to get him started again. It's Eddie Cheever's car. Eddie Cheever then is out, not Alboretto. I apologise for the wrong identification, but Eddie Cheever there, out of the Tyrrell, and on the right with the crane lifting it out of danger, the Renault of Alain Prost. So on lap 16, Arnoux. So on lap 15, it is Alain Prost in the lead from Alan Jones. In third position, it is Carlos Reutemann. In fourth place, it is Nelson Piquet. In fifth position, behind Nelson Piquet, it's Bruno Giacomelli, and then behind Giacomelli in the Ferrari, Didier Pironi, and then behind him, it is Patrick Tambay in the second of the two Talbot cars, and in ninth position, it is Andrea De Cesaris. away from the Ferrari as they go into the chicane and the Reticule show. And behind them is John Watson, and Alan Jones has been pushed right down into 8th position. Well, what a battle behind, because although Alain Prost is very much commanding the race from the front, his teammate René Arnoux is out of it. Alan Jones is at the moment in a pretty secure second place on lap 17 out of 52. Bruno Giacomelli in a third superb place in the Alfa Romeo. And we remember well how Bruno Giacomelli led the American Grand Prix at Watkins Glen last year, 1980, until he had some kind of engine trouble and had to drop out, and that was a stirring drive. And now he's right back again, up at the top in third position as Jacques Lafitte tries to take Didier Pironi. It's Tambay coming up and taking Pironi and pulling away from him. Tambay in the Talbot Matra V12. Across the line again, 17 laps completed by Alain Prost in the Renault in the lead, and it looks to me as though no rain is actually coming down at the moment, although it's very, very dark overhead. Alan Jones goes through in second position, and now the battle for third. The gap between Bruno Giacomelli and Jones is 7.9 seconds, with PK fourth. Tambay up into fifth position ahead of Pironi, who is sixth, and John Watson is seventh, and Alan Jones is in eighth position.
Well, this rain has shown the sort of characteristic amongst the drivers. You can pick out the young tigers, less experienced. It's very difficult when the track's wet like this and you're on dry tires. There are two ways to take the corner. One is to try and take it at what one might call a racing speed, which is considerably faster than the absolute 100% safe speed. And that's why, for example, Bruno Giacomelli, who is doing it very well indeed at the moment, I might add, but he is probably taking it close to the limit. And as I said before, you know, it's a long race, one little slip, and you're out of the race, which is, of course, the experienced drivers. Reutemann, for example, is right at the other extreme. He's taking a real tiptoe, which is very much Reutemann's character, but that has cost him dear because it's put him down into 8th place, and it may just be that he won't be able to recover that before the end of the race if we get no more rain and no more dramas. And Reutemann's certainly in need of points for the championship at the moment. Piquet, meanwhile, has moved up, and that's an overall shot. You can see it's misty, it's very overcast. There they are, slipping and sliding. As Giacomelli coming down to the Parabolica, that's a back marker he's just in front of there. He's just that. Here comes the big bunch. Piquet's now got the better of that bunch. Alan Jones, you see, who's clear at the moment in second place, ahead of Giacomelli, but Giacomelli must now be catching him. In fact, Giacomelli is now in sight, which he wasn't a little while ago.
Well, the gap between Jones and Giacomelli is 6.8 seconds. Lafitte going for fourth position, and he gets it. Jacques Lafitte now fourth, ahead of PK fifth, Pironi sixth. John Watson has closed right up in seventh position, number 7, as we look at Bruno Giacomelli in the Alfa Romeo on his own, but definitely taking a bit out of Alan Jones' lead. And good news for British enthusiasts is that Brian Henton is still in the race. In fact, he's in 16th place. And Nigel Mansell is in 14th place. Derek Daly one ahead of him in 13th position. As we look at Michele Alboreto, who is about to be lapped by Patrick Tambay. And Patrick Tambay, of course, are now ahead of Piquet. And this has to be, at the moment, the sensation of the race. Because Tambay, who is in 4th position, is pulling away from Piquet and Pironi and Watson.
Yes, so that's another example of the young tiger approach. Tambay, as well, has taken great advantage of the wet by probably taking the small risk, but like Giacomelli, it hasn't cost him anything. He's done it extremely well, and he's moved up 4 or 5 places as a result of it. Is now in 5th place, certainly the best Grand Prix situation he's had for some time. They're all arriving together. Pironi is fighting away, slipping and sliding. Look at them sliding all over the place there. And Watson sitting quietly at the back of that group, in the group there, but not making much impression.
Well, let's just check on the race positions on lap 20 as we watch Didier Pironi and Nelson Piquet battling for a position as they go into the Retificio chicane ahead of John Watson and Michele Alboreto, who has been lapped. On lap 20, it's Alain Prost leading Alan Jones with Bruno Giacomelli in third position. Then that battle for fourth place, which was Patrick Tambay, and then behind him Nelson Piquet and Didier Pironi. And there is Patrick Tambay in fourth position, easing out now ahead of fifth place man Didier Pironi. There he is in the Ferrari. Sixth is Piquet, seventh is John Watson, and out of the points at the moment is Carlos Reutemann. There he is, storming along in the back behind John Watson, who loses it. That's John Watson, and a very nasty one indeed. Torn the whole of the back off the car, and that's a very, very bad one indeed. They will dash forward and get rid of the wreckage, and there's somebody else off there as well. It looks like... Let's watch this replay as John Watson loses it and goes backwards into the Armco.
There's a very heavy shunt there. Watson just caught the curb there and he backed it in absolutely square on, and that's a bit of flame as all the fuel lines. Watson's perfectly all right. He's got out of the car and he's walked away. That was just a flash of fuel as the fuel lines broke, and it was, in fact, the back end of the car came off, and Reutemann, following there, just avoided it. The very fine... I don't know whether Reutemann damaged his car on the barrier or not, but he did seem to keep going. And Watson now is in half a car. That's the gearbox unit you see on the left. And as I say, they come out of that corner at about 150 miles an hour, and he hardly slowed down at all. Very nasty shot for John Watson. That was a great shame, because that looked like a little bit of an error of concentration. He just let the car ride up the curb a bit and then failed to control it. Well, the marshals are getting pretty excited. It's a pretty dangerous situation, because as you come round that corner, it's completely blind, and the drivers who are coming around there don't yet know, until they've done a lap, what it's like. And Reutemann apparently got through that all right. Alboreto caught the back end of it. He was the second car to arrive on the scene, and has damaged his car, taking evasive action, which is, of course, a very bad luck for him.
Well, the marshals dragging away the rear end, the gearbox, the transaxle and the wheels of John Watson's Marlboro MP4. And as far as we know, John Watson got out of that safely. You can see that there's no driver in the front half of the car, and we saw him get out, so he's presumably okay, and a very, very lucky man, because you're going very, very quickly when you come out of the corner there. It's about a 160-mile-an-hour corner, and there is Alain Prost completing lap 22 in the lead, going into the Retificio, and that'll give us a chance to get the thread of the places back as we wait now, looking down towards the Parabolica. Alan Jones goes through in second position, and in third position it is Giacomelli, but look at Patrick Tambay in the blue Talbot, who is challenging Giacomelli. This is the excitement of the race as they close up on Jean-Pierre Jarier in the brand new Osella. There is Didier Pironi ahead again of Nelson Piquet, and that should mean that Carlos Reutemann is back in the points again. Yes, Reutemann goes through, but he's got right on his tail Andrea de Cesaris. A replay this is of the John Watson incident. See, he loses the back of the car. It sprints right around, goes across the track, backwards into the Armco. Then a great flash of flame as the fuel lines erupt. The car continues spinning, the whole of the back end of it torn off. Another flash of flame, and the back end of the car goes right across the circuit as the bodywork flies up into the air. And you see to the left, Michele Alboreto avoiding the damage, but going very, very quickly indeed. And the back of his car hits the Armco, ruptures the fuel lines, a great flash of light. There is the suspension and the gearbox, and that is Reutemann going through now as Michele Alboreto spins off, and as Prost finishes lap 22 in this amazing Italian Grand Prix, He is leading now, Alan Jones, and in third position, up into third position, still Bruno Giacomelli, as we look at Alan Jones going through in second position, on his way to 9 points, 6 points in the World Championship. Now, then Giacomelli is still in third position, but driving the best race of his career since he joined Talbot. Behind Giacomelli, there is Patrick Tambay in fourth place. That is Jarier, who has been lapped. There, fifth is Nelson Piquet, and sixth, Didier Pironi.
He's gone extraordinary well. He's gone right away from Tambay. Oh, no, that's, I beg your pardon, that's Mario Andretti in the other Alfa, who's also coming up through the field very well indeed. He's moved up past Reutemann. I'm getting confused. I can't identify the helmet there. The caption says one thing.
Well, it's Mario Andretti, but let us, on lap 24, with a very sick Tolman passing us with Brian Henton at the wheel, give you the positions. On lap 24, in this 52-lap race, Alain Prost has just completed the lap, very much in the lead. In second position is Alan Jones. I've just had a flash that Patrick Tambay is out of the race, but in third position now is Nelson Piquet. In fourth position is Didier Pironi. In fifth place is Mario Andretti. And in sixth position is Carlos Reutemann back in the point. There is Giacomelli in third position. Patrick Tambay, cruel luck for him. He was battling for third position with Giacomelli. And now it's Piquet who is up behind Giacomelli with Pironi behind him. There is the battle for fourth position. Nelson Piquet fourth. Didier Pironi, number 28 in the Scarlet Ferrari in fifth position. Behind them in the points now is Carlos Reutemann in sixth place. In seventh position is Andrea De Cesaris. And then Elio De Angelis. You know that Nigel Mansell is out of the race, and we're looking at Alain Prost, the race leader, on lap 25, coming up to half distance, which is lap 26. But look at the car in front. It's the Tolman of Hinton, the turbocharged 1.5 litre Brian Hart engined Tolman, and it's about to be lapped by race leader Alain Prost, number 15, who is seemingly on his way to his third Grand Prix victory of 1981, with again his teammate René Arnoux out, because as we look at Brian Hinton completing the lap, and now Prost coming up to take him, we go back down the field to take a look as Jarier goes through, but Alain Prost is the man who won in France, who won in Holland, who has failed to finish 8 times. Alan Jones is still in second position, and we're looking now at the exit from the Parabolica as the third position man, Giacomelli, goes into the Retificio. This is the battle for fourth position. Rather, that was the battle for fourth position between Nelson Piquet and Didier Pironi, as we look at Giacomelli's Alfa Romeo exiting and going up towards the Lesmo bend. There's the first Lesmo bend. Now he's at the Ruggia, and Alan Jones we see for the first time for a long time. Jones is now some 17 seconds behind Alain Prost and some 5 seconds ahead of Bruno Giacomelli. So the race positions are pretty static at the moment, but as we have had in the past, there has been a lot of drivers dropping out. Hector Ribac went out very early on. Villeneuve went out of the race, of course, with that broken turbo. Jacques Lafitte with a puncture. Then Slim Borgood went out. René Arnoux went off into the sand. Eliseo Salazar spun off. John Watson, we've seen destroy his car. Michele Alboreto went out at the same time as Watson. Riccardo Patrese we have seen in the pit, and we've seen too Nigel Mansell's car being pushed in. And of course Patrick Tambay out of the race because he's shown on our caption board here 3 laps adrift, so he's right well down. 13th position officially at the moment. Giacomelli, number 23, and behind him is Mario Andretti, in the second of the two Alfa Romeo, so we'll have to keep a very careful eye open as they go through at the end of this lap. There is Piquet going through, and Piquet is... And into the pits comes Giacomelli. Well, the man who was in third place. I've said this before this season, but it's beginning to look as though we're going to have very few cars finish the Italian Grand Prix because Giacomelli is effectively out of the running. That puts Carlos Reutemann up another place, and the positions on lap 27, which is the one that we're on now, confirm that Alain Prost is leading from Alan Jones, with Nelson Piquet in third position. Up into third position has gone Nelson Piquet. Up into fourth position, with only 12 cars left, has gone Didier Pironi. Up into fifth place has gone Mario Andretti in the second Alfa Romeo. And down into sixth position, and now much lower, of course, Bruno Giacomelli. And that means that the new sixth place man will be Carlos Reutemann.
It's a great shame to see Giacomelli go out, because he really has driven an excellent race. He didn't put a foot wrong. And Giacomelli, in fact, is just rejoining. He's just gone out of the pits. Didn't see what they did to the car, so we don't really know what the trouble was. But his race is, for all intents and purposes, lost because he's now a lap down. And a great shame, because his driving has been characterised by being a trifle headstrong in the past, and in the most difficult conditions with that wet patch there on the one corner, he took advantage of it and he didn't make a mistake, and it was a really, really fine effort. And it would have been nice, of course, to have seen him go the distance in his home Grand Prix in a healthy state, see if he could really put a good result across. The car's obviously going very well indeed, because Mario Andretti is coming quietly through the field, and another good race is being driven so far by Andrea De Cesaris, who's taken up the cudgels from John Watson and is closing steadily in on Carlos Reutemann. In fact, he's now very close behind him.
Well, these defections, as it were, there's Jones going through. These defections, as it were, have affected the World Championship. Carlos Reutemann and Piquet, it's absolutely critical where they finish in this race. And with Piquet well ahead of Carlos Reutemann at the present moment, if they keep going the way they are now, it means to say that Nelson Piquet will take the World Championship lead at the end of the Italian Grand Prix. He's in the running for 4 points at the present moment, whereas Carlos Reutemann, who's in sixth position, is in the running for only 1 point. Lap 29 now, because Alain Prost has just completed 28 laps. Second position still Alan Jones. That's Brian Henton's turbocharged Tolman. Third position is still Piquet. Fourth position is still Pironi. Fifth is Mario Andretti, and sixth is Carlos Reutemann. Well, and Reutemann in the World Championship points. Behind Carlos Reutemann, Andrea De Cesaris is in seventh position. And he's retrieving his honour, because once again in practice he went off and badly damaged his Marlboro, as he has done many times before this season. But he's keeping going extremely steadily and well at the moment, albeit a full minute behind Alain Prost, the race leader, who leads Jones by 18 seconds. And the gap between Piquet in third position, Pironi in fourth, as you see, is 1.523 seconds. Piquet laps Brian Henton, and he's really pulling away from Didier Pironi now. The race leader, Alain Prost, is on his 31st lap, and it looks to me as they go down towards the parabolica, as though the conditions are brightening. There's been a very distinct brightening of the skies over our grandstand position here, and Piquet holding that third place, easing away from Pironi, who has yet to pass Brian Henton in the Tolman, as Alain Prost goes into the Vialoni, the left-hander, no, the Roger, I'm sorry, and it's Bruno Giacomelli back in the pit. Well, it's obviously, whatever the problem with the Alfa Romeo is, this is the new one, it's first race. Whatever the problem is, it certainly isn't tires, because there is no activity around the wheels at all. The mechanic at the back has got the air starter plugged into the Alfa Romeo. He fires it up, and away goes Bruno Giacomelli, and towards us, out of the Ascari chicane, down towards the Parabolica, approaching 160 miles an hour in fifth gear, the race leader, Alain Prost, and Giacomelli leaves the pits, and it is definitely brightening. Now, we can expect the course to start drying out where it's wet. That's Alan Jones in second position on his 31st lap. 6 points for Alan Jones if he finishes here. That will give him 37 points and will move him ahead of Jacques Lafitte, who is out of the race and up into third position. In which case we would have Piquet leading the championship, Reutemann second, Jones third, and it really does look as though the World Championship is going to go right down to the last race of the season at Las Vegas in California before it's decided. Piquet, Pironi in fourth position, fighting back. Out of the Parabolica, we just saw Piquet. Here is Pironi, down to the Rettificio. They are now on their 32nd lap, so there are 20 laps to go. Coleman is still going pretty quick, but it sounds absolutely terrible, because as he backs off to slow down for the multiple bends at the Rettificio chicane, there is an enormous amount of spluttering and backfiring, but the important thing is that they are getting some race mileage on the Tolman. Giacomelli back in the race. Behind him, the race leader, number 15, Alain Prost, lap 32. Prost leading Jones by 18.7 seconds, and Jones is 22 seconds ahead of Piquet, who is 2 seconds ahead of Pironi, who is 7 seconds ahead of Andretti, who is 2 seconds ahead of Reutemann.
Shoot the turbocharged cars so well. So it does look, although Prost is making his charge, it's a little bit too late, and we can't really see him as a contender. But the World Championship is, as Murray rightly says, opening up wider and wider at the moment, and it looks very much as we're going to go right down to the last race, which of course is absolutely ideal for us spectators, and pretty good for the drivers too. Keeps them on their toes.
Well, now look at this, because Carlos Reutemann has now got Mario Andretti right behind him. The American in the Alfa Romeo, the Gerard Ducar Rouge, much modified Alfa Romeo. I keep on talking about this man, Ducar Rouge. Who is he? The answer is that he is the ex-team manager of the Talbot team, who was fired and has taken his expertise to Alfa Romeo, who have been very eager indeed to make the maximum use of it. And he has made alterations to the monocoque of the Alfa Romeo, to the suspension, to the underwings in the side pods, but none to the engine. But the result is that, as you can well see, the Alfa Romeo handles very much better than it did. And now it's Alain Prost leading Alan Jones, who is second. Third place is Nelson Piquet, and in fourth position is Didier Pironi. But the battle for fifth and those vital World Championship points is now starting to develop between number 2 Carlos Reutemann and number 22 Mario Andretti, with Elio De Angelis in 7th position, De Cesaris in 8th position, and there is Brian Henton, who is still in 12th place, albeit 2 laps behind the race leader, which is that man, number 15, Alain Prost, who is on his 35th lap out of 52. Prost out of the Lesmo bench. They haven't got the suspension and the wheel of Watson's car very far off the circuit, obviously because it is very heavy indeed. There's Prost, who's got ahead of Giacomelli. Giacomelli, of course, is 2 laps adrift now with his 2 visits to the pit. That's Giacomelli in the background. And the gap between Prost and Reutemann, who is in 5th position, is 58 seconds, as near as makes no difference. But I'm wondering how much longer Carlos Reutemann will be able to hold on to that 5th position, because Mario Andretti has really got the bit between his teeth. Prost exiting the parabolica to come through and complete his 35th lap. And he's got 16 laps to go now. On his way to his 3rd Grand Prix victory of 1981, having won in France and Holland, and 2nd in Germany and 3rd in the Argentine. And he should have, or rather he could have, won at least 2 other Grand Prix. He led in Britain, he led in Austria, and he would richly deserve this victory, because he is undoubtedly the driver of the year at the moment. Alain Prost, there he goes. Here towards us, Bruno Giacomelli, 11th place, 2 laps down. And Prost is slowing. Surely, Prost slowed right down there.
Yes, it certainly looked like it, but he seems to be going slow. It's very difficult, of course, to see from our angle. We can work it out. No, Giacomelli didn't seem to be gaining on him very dramatically, so maybe it was just an optical illusion, but it caught both of us out. But let's keep looking at him. No, I think if he had slowed down, Giacomelli would be catching him up by now. The gap doesn't seem to have changed. Dear, that gave me a bit of a fright. Certainly, as I was saying, Prost driving this year has become really mature. He's a very class driver, Prost. He's relatively new to Grand Prix racing. It's his 2nd full season. He joined the McLaren team last year when their fortunes were not at their highest level for a while, and he showed immediately that he had a very intelligent approach. He was fast in the car, and now he's got a particularly good car. It was significant that he didn't put a foot wrong when that rain came down. No sense of panic or anything like that. Driven in a very mature fashion. And, we're going to see a lot of Alain Prost through his career, I'm sure of that.
Well, it certainly looked visually as though Alain Prost slowed down, and I've got the stopwatch running now to see what the gap is between Alain Prost and Alan Jones, and it is 16.8 seconds. So certainly Alain Prost hasn't lost any time and therefore distance to Alan Jones, and it must have been an illusion. Piquet there in 3rd position, very spread out now. Piquet is 30 seconds behind Jones, and Reutemann and Pironi at it now. Pironi was in 4th position, and Reutemann has caught him. And if Reutemann can get past, Pironi's in 4th position, yes. Don't forget that Piquet is in 3rd position. Here is the battle for 4th place, which has been going on for so long between Pironi's Ferrari and Reutemann's Williams. Into the Rettificio. Reutemann 5th position, 2 World Championship points. If he can get past Pironi, it will be 4th and 3 points.
This is the most extraordinary thing. Reutemann, I can only surmise that Reutemann has speeded up, because all of a sudden he's dropped Andretti and he's caught up with Pironi, and it's characteristic, it's strange to see that somebody who's leading the World Championship is so moody. There's no doubt that it would be in character for Reutemann to have gone into a decline, even I might almost say a sulk when the rain came down, because he didn't like it. And of all the drivers in the race, he certainly went the slowest through the wet patch. Which is more, as I say, more than circumspection with him. It's more a sort of moodiness. He gets rather sulky about it. And I think he must have finally realised that it's dried out and got the bit back between his teeth again. But it is strange how he behaves like this.
Well, watching the battle for 4th position then between Reutemann, who's going to come out of Pironi's slipstream, I think, as they come down the parabolica and try and take that 4th position away from the Frenchman in the Italian Ferrari, but he won't get round the outside of Didier Pironi. Not there, or if he does, it's going to be absolutely superhuman driving. Meantime, Piquet is just about the length of the straight that Pironi and Reutemann have entered now, ahead of these two. Pironi goes through and completes his 37th lap in this 52-lap race, still in fourth position. Reutemann comes up to him again. It's obvious that the Williams, as we well know, handles much better than the Ferrari, and he closes right up as they go through the lefts and rights of the Rettificio, up now towards the Roggia as they go round the Curva Grande, that very famous fourth gear corner, and it's 160 miles an hour here, and now Reutemann's going to try and get through on braking, and he's done it. Reutemann takes fourth position on lap 38 from Didier Pironi, and if he can pull out a gap, and he's doing it already as they go into the Lesmo bends, if he can pull out a gap, Pironi won't be able to do anything about it as they go down to the Parabolica. Replay.
Yes, Reutemann just doing a classic out-braking manoeuvre. He's been noticeable how he's been closing up on the Ferrari under-braking every time. The Ferrari, honestly, it's sad to say with such a fine pedigree and that great name, but it really is a bit of a tank. But it's got this magnificent engine with a great deal of power, and its performances really have depended entirely on that this year. And you can see now that Reutemann has cheered up again. All wet weather stuff is forgotten, and he's really having a little charge now and going very well indeed.
Because we're favouring Alain Prost as he goes round the Parabolica on his 40th lap in this Italian Grand-Prix out of 52. And in the background on the right-hand side of the course was Alan Jones. But now we look at Carlos Reutemann, who is in fourth place. And just look at the way that Carlos Reutemann is pulling away from Didier Pironi, who is in fifth place. And you look back and you see Mario Andretti in sixth position on lap 40, closing up on Pironi. Nelson Piquet in third position, leading the World Championship at the moment and increasing his lead if he maintains this position, because Carlos Reutemann is in fourth place behind him. And Reutemann is obviously in particular trying to catch Piquet. And we've lost, by the way, Derek Daly, who was in a ninth position for a long time. He slipped down the field. He's in 11th position at the moment. Carlos Reutemann is in fourth place and gaining.
Yes, at last we've got something to get a bit more excitement with the race. We had so much excitement earlier on when the rain came down, what with all the dramas, that in all that excitement we lost so many cars that we were left with a bit of a procession. But Reutemann is definitely having a charge after Piquet, and of course that's the joint leaders of the World Championship, locked in combat, still in touch with the lead of the championship with the distance in front of them, on schedule to score some more points. So anything that happens from now on looks as if it's going to concertina the championship situation up yet further.
Well, the really interesting thing at the moment is that Carlos Reutemann in fourth place is taking chunks out of Piquet's lead over him. It was 11.5 seconds, and as you see from the caption there, it's down to just under 9. But even if Carlos Reutemann catches Nelson Piquet, he'll have a heck of a job to get past him, because each will know that leading the World Championship jointly as they are, the one that finishes ahead will be in first place in the championship, and the other will be second at the end of the race, and it would only be 1 point difference. Well, there is Piquet. Look back for Carlos Reutemann. There he is. Now, that looks to me rather less than 8 seconds, although it is misleading because we're looking down the whole of the straight from the Parabolica to the Ascari bend, but I'm going to put a stopwatch on them both as they complete their 41st lap. And Mario Andretti in sixth position is right with Didier Pironi ahead of him in fifth place. And Piquet has crossed the line in third position. The seconds are ticking by, and the gap between Piquet and Reutemann is still 8.5 seconds, 8.46 seconds. And the very, very good news is that John Watson, who crashed so spectacularly earlier on, is perfectly okay. He said he hooked two wheels over the curb, spun it and lost it. Well, we know that And we're enormously relieved to know that John Watson is okay as the Alfa Romeo comes into the pit. And it's Mario Andretti. We've had Mario Andretti, who was in 6th position and catching Nelson Piquet. Pironi, catching Pironi. There is Pironi, and to confirm it, there behind Pironi is Elio De Angelis, who has now moved up into 6th position. Well, both Alfa Romeos in trouble because although Giacomelli makes appearances from time to time, he's very much out of the race. And on lap 43 in this Italian Grand Prix, the gap between number 5 there, Nelson Piquet, and in the background, number 2, Carlos Reutemann, is still 8.5 seconds. I must say, it looks closer than that visually, but who am I to argue? It's extremely sophisticated electronic timing equipment as we look down on Brian Henton's Tolman going through the Rettificio bends. And across the line goes Piquet again. That's 42 laps completed for the Brazilian. And this time the gap is 7.2 seconds. So Carlos Reutemann is definitely, no shadow of doubt about it, gaining on Nelson Piquet. 7 seconds is the gap between the 3rd and 4th men who are jointly leading the World Championship. No change in the lead, of course, on lap 43, with Alain Prost 18 seconds ahead of Alan Jones, and Alan Jones is 36 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet. So unless either Prost or Jones have some kind of mechanical trouble, it would seem that the first 2 places in the Italian Grand Prix are settled, but the battle for 3rd rages, with Carlos Reutemann gaining lap by lap on Nelson Piquet, and it could be very, very close at the end as we look down now on the distinctive yellow and white Renault of Alain Prost, exiting the Rettificio bends, going round the Curva Grande, and the next car, if you see one, will be Alan Jones's Williams. And Brian Henton is now up into 11th place, 3 laps down, but he is still very much in the running. As Out end of his 44th lap in 5th position. And there is no change for the leadership as we look at the broken remains of John Watson's car. And as you just heard, John Watson is perfectly okay. There is Carlos Reutemann, who is doing extremely well, because Carlos Reutemann is gaining all the time on Nelson Piquet, who is in 3rd position, and Alan Jones is still 2nd. So on the 46th lap now, out of 52, Alain Prost is on his way in the turbocharged Renault to his 3rd Grand Prix victory of 1981 as Brian Henton crosses the line in the Tolman, and Henton is now up into 10th position as we look at Nelson Piquet, and there are 2 terrific battles raging in the first 6. This one between Nelson Piquet, who is in 3rd position, and there in 4th place, gaining on Piquet at the rate of approximately a second a lap, Carlos Reutemann. And of course, Carlos Reutemann and Nelson Piquet are tying for the World Championship lead at the present moment. And there are 4 points for 3rd position, which number 5 Piquet has got. There are 3 points for 4th position, which Carlos Reutemann is in. So it is absolutely critical for the World Championship leadership whether Nelson Piquet or Carlos Reutemann finishes in 3rd and 4th positions. There would been no doubt about who's going to win, Alain Prost, or who will be second, Alan Jones. And as you look at Nelson Piquet in third position, you may be wondering, obviously, what happened to Bruno Giacomelli. The answer is that the young Italian in the Alfa Romeo, who had fought his way up into third position brilliantly, went into the pits, came out, went into the pits again, and he is now still running in 8th position, but 2 laps adrift. And we are now on lap 47 with Alain Prost leading, Alan Jones in 2nd position, Nelson Piquet is 3rd, Patrick Tambay, who was battling for 3rd position earlier on in the race, is right down in 13th position. Indeed, he's out of the race because some 23 laps ago he had to retire. So Prost leads Jones, Piquet is 3rd with Reutemann gaining. De Angelis is in 5th place and Pironi is in 6th position, and we are on lap 47. And waiting for Alan Jones to go through, and Jones does it now, but the gap is up again. It's 8 seconds, 8 seconds. So Jones gains, but he didn't gain anything on that particular lap. He's really flying now, though, and it's just conceivable that... Well, let's check again. Alan Jones is still gaining on the race leader, Alain Prost. It's only 8 seconds between them now, with 4 laps to go. He's gaining, continuing to gain at the rate of 2 seconds a lap, as Nelson Piquet comes towards us in 3rd place, and Reutemann is close to Nelson Piquet too, so there could be some real drama and excitement in the closing stages of this Italian Grand Prix. There goes Reutemann in 4th place, there is Piquet, and Piquet is only exiting the Rettificio as Reutemann goes into it. Brian Hinton is still running in 10th position, there is the Brazilian who is 3rd. And restate quickly, lap 49 out of 52, Alain Prost and Alan Jones 1st and 2nd. You saw there the gap between Piquet and Reutemann, and there it is visually. And Piquet has ahead of him Jean-Pierre Jarier in the brand new first race of Sella. But what is the gap now? Carlos Reutemann is quickest then. Carlos Reutemann is really speeding up. 1 minute 37.5, and Alain Prost has completed his lap. It was 8 seconds gap, and the gap now between Prost and Jones is 9 seconds. So Prost is holding his lead. And it looks now, with the Frenchman on lap 50 out of 52, as though Alan Jones's late charge is not going to be fast enough. Piquet goes through and takes Jean-Pierre Jarier, laps him in 9th position, Jarier. Here is the 4th place man, Reutemann.
An interesting situation, because it seems that all the leaders have speeded up now, because I think Piquet has responded to Reutemann's charge. There's no doubt that Reutemann's been going quicker and quicker over the last few laps, but Piquet has responded because Reutemann is now closing the gap at too slow a rate, although that he seemed to be a little bit closer as they went by then. It's there's Piquet going through the chicane, Reutemann just out of shot, but he's not far behind. He's very much in visual range. You can see Piquet's car, and Jones was charging away at Prost, and then unless Jones had a bad lap or something, Prost seemed suddenly to respond. I think he was probably letting the gap get down to about 10 seconds, and then decided he better do something about it. So maybe all the excitement we're getting up here from gap watching is a little bit of a false excitement, in that the leading drivers in each battle has been taking it easy and with something in hand to respond as and when necessary.
Carlos Reutemann just under 5 seconds behind Nelson Piquet, and the race leader Alain Prost in the turbocharged Renault on his way to his 2nd Grand Prix win in succession because he won the last one in Holland 2 weeks ago. He's now on lap 51 out of 52, and Carlos Reutemann may be gaining on Nelson Piquet. Indeed, the gap is 5 seconds now, but I would doubt that Carlos Reutemann is going to get close enough to Nelson Piquet to challenge him in the remaining 2 laps, because they are on lap 51. It's the last lap but one, and as you saw, Elio De Angelis is in 5th position and Didier Pironi is still in 6th place, and there is the race leader, Alain Prost. He's going on his way down to the Vialoni, the first half of the comparatively new chicane. And then from the Vialoni, which is a left-hander, he goes into the Ascari bend in 3rd gear. There he is now, Alain Prost, the Grand-Prix sensation of 1981. As we look at the Frenchman catching up on Pironi, he's going to lap everybody up to certainly 7th position, which is Andrea de Cesaris. And when Alain Prost comes out of the Parabolica, which he is entering now, and entering our side into the long straight down to the Retificio, it will be to start his last lap. Over the line goes Alain Prost. He is now on lap 52, which is his last lap, and we'll see what the gap is between him and Alan Jones. It had been extended to 11 seconds. And Jones, far from gaining on Prost, is now definitely dropping back, because it's 16 seconds now. If anybody's in trouble on the last lap, it's Alan Jones. And don't forget that he has got a broken finger and his engine sounding very, very rough as he rumpled over the line. But Alan Jones there in 2nd position has got an enormous cushion between himself and Nelson Piquet. 35 seconds, so if he can just keep the Williams going, he will be secure for 2nd place. And Piquet in 3rd position is now just 4.25 seconds ahead of Carlos Reutemann, and will therefore be leading the World Championship by 1 point. And the World Championship really is going down to the last race of the year. And who is that? It looked like Piquet from the back, the red helmet, and it's Reutemann gaining. There's an engine explosion, and it's Piquet. It is Piquet. On the very last lap, Reutemann takes that 3rd position from Nelson Piquet. Tremendous drama, and Carlos Reutemann has held his position in the World Championship. And Nelson Piquet, can he finish the last lap? What enormous drama, because Didier Pironi is now gaining as Alain Prost comes out of the Parabolica. The Frenchman in the Renault is going to win his 3rd Grand Prix of 1981. He crosses the line, touring. Alain Prost tours in, but the sensation is not so much that Prost has won, but where is Alan Jones going to be, because he was dropping back on the 2nd lap. There is the Australian coming out of the Parabolica. He's going to be in 2nd position, but he looks to me as though he's going pretty slowly. And Alan Jones tours across the line as well. Now we wait for the 3rd place man, and to see in particular where Nelson Piquet is going to finish, because Carlos Reutemann is certainly still leading the World Championship. If he just comes into our sight round the Parabolica next, and where is Reutemann? There he is. Williams cars finish 2nd and 3rd. The world champion Alan Jones finishes 2nd, and Carlos Reutemann consolidates his world championship lead by finishing in 3rd position and getting 4 points. Now, who is going to be 4th? Is he going to be Piquet? Well, there is Piquet, still struggling on. Who has he been passed by on this last lap? We're looking, of course, at the Brazilian in the Brabham, and he's obviously got no motive power, and he's touring off. Piquet retires, no points for the Brazilian. So that's making his World Championship chances very, very tricksy indeed, because Elio De Angelis in the Lotus crosses the line, and he's going to finish as he comes very slowly indeed in 4th position, with Pironi in 5th place. And that will put Andrea de Cesaris, I think, up into 6th position. And